Welcome back to Old Coin Z Collection. If you love rare coins, untold stories, and hidden treasures from history, then hit that subscribe button right now, because today we're diving deep into a coin that has quietly survived the test of time. A coin that may look small, simple, and ordinary, but hides a story of pride, legacy, and incredible value. This coin, Canada 1939 1-cent coin. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the world in 1939. Canada stood at the edge of a world at war. The air was heavy with uncertainty. Families gathered around their radios, listening to news from Europe, not knowing what the next day would bring. In that same year, while the world prepared for conflict, the Royal Canadian Mint continued its duty, producing coins that would circulate through the hands of everyday Canadians. Among them was the humble 1-cent coin, a small bronze piece carrying the image of King George VI, the father of the future Queen Elizabeth II that now. Most people didn't think much of it back then. It was just a penny, something to buy a piece of candy or tuck into a jar at home. But behind that penny was a symbol of Canadian strength and craftsmanship. Each coin was made from bronze, a blend of copper, tin, and zinc, shining proudly with the crown portrait of the king on one side and the twin maple leaves on the other, a timeless symbol of Canada's spirit. But here's where the story takes an interesting turn. 1939 wasn't just any year in Canadian history. It was the year King George VI and Queen Elizabeth made their famous royal tour of Canada, the very first time a reigning monarch had set foot on Canadian soil. For many, that visit was a moment of unity and pride, and these coins became silent witnesses to that chapter. When Canadians reached into their pockets, they weren't just holding currency, they were holding a small piece of history. Over the decades, countless of these 1-cent coins disappeared from circulation, lost in drawers, melted down, or simply forgotten. But for collectors, the 1939 penny began to stand out. Why? Because of its connection to that historic royal visit, its beautiful design, and the fact that high-quality, well-preserved examples are now extremely rare. Think about it. Millions of people use these coins, but only a few were carefully stored away, untouched by time. Those that survived in near-perfect condition are now considered treasures, especially when they bear sharp details, full mint luster, and no scratches or marks. When an old coin carries not just metal, but memory, its value grows beyond calculation. It becomes a time capsule. Imagine finding one in an old box, perhaps passed down from a father or grandfather who lived through those very years. That's not just a coin. That's a direct connection to Canada's past. Collectors around the world chase after coins like this because they represent something that will never be made again. The Canada 1939 1-cent coin isn't made of silver or gold. It holds a worth far beyond its weight. Its beauty lies in what it represents. A nation finding its identity, a world on the brink of change, and the hands of ordinary people shaping extraordinary history. Now, you might be wondering, how can something so small be worth so much today? The answer lies in rarity and preservation. Over time, only a handful of these coins have survived in pristine, mint-state condition. And when one appears at auction, collectors are willing to pay a fortune to own it. It's not just about owning a coin. It's about owning a story, a symbol of resilience, and a tangible piece of 20th century Canada. Every scratch tells a story. Every gleam under the light reminds us of the countless lives this coin may have touched: shopkeepers, factory workers, farmers, and soldiers. This 1-cent coin lived through one of the most defining eras in modern history. It carries echoes of both hardship and hope that if you have one of these coins tucked away, take a closer look. The year 1939 is more than just a date. It's a marker of time, a silent witness to a changing world. And if that coin has been preserved in perfect condition, without any wear, you might just be holding something truly extraordinary. Because here's the most astonishing part. A pristine, uncirculated 1939 Canadian 1-cent coin, graded to the highest mint state, has been valued by collectors and experts at an unbelievable figure. A small coin that once held the power to buy a piece of candy can now command a value so immense it almost defies belief. Yes, you heard that right. In the rarest and most perfect form, this 1939 Canadian 1-cent coin could be worth up to $2 million. The next time you go through your old coin jar or open a forgotten drawer, remember, sometimes history this coin 1940 a time, when the world was at war, nations were reshaping, and Canada was quietly minting a humble copper coin that would one day stir the hearts of collectors around the world, the 1944 Canadian 1-cent coin. Now, you might be thinking, what's so special about a 1-cent coin? After all, a penny is just a penny, small, ordinary, often ignored. But this 1-cent piece from 1944 is not just a coin. It's a snapshot of courage, sacrifice, and the resilience of a nation standing firm during one of the darkest times in human history. But let's imagine the world in 1944. The Second World War was raging on. Canada had been involved since the very beginning, contributing men, materials, and hope to the Allied cause. At home, resources were scarce, metal was precious, and every piece of copper counted. Yet the Royal Canadian Mint continued to strike the 1-cent coin, not out of luxury, but out of duty. Because even in hard times, money kept the country moving. The 1944 Canada 1-cent coin was made from bronze, a mix of copper, tin, and zinc. But during wartime, these metals were heavily rationed. Some years, even pennies had to change composition to save resources. Still, Canada kept the familiar design. On one side, the portrait of King George VI, the father of Queen Elizabeth II, facing left, wearing his royal crown. On the other side, the famous two maple leaves, symbols of Canadian pride and unity, resting on a single twig, a simple yet powerful image of strength and endurance. These coins were small in value, but mighty in meaning. Every Canadian soldier who left home for war carried the image of their king and their maple leaves in their pocket, a silent reminder of what they were fighting for. Imagine that, a penny that traveled through the mud of Europe, through the pockets of workers and factories, through the hands of children buying candy. For a single cent, over 44 million of these coins were struck in 1944, which makes them common in one sense. But their story makes them extraordinary. You see, not every coin survives the decades. Many were melted down, lost, or damaged. The few that remain in pristine, untouched condition, the ones that still shine with their original reddish-brown luster, have become treasures for collectors, and that's where the magic begins. For those who understand the language of coins, every scratch, every edge, every tone tells a story. The 1944 penny may look simple, but variations in minting, die errors, or even subtle imperfections can turn an ordinary coin into a collector's dream. Some coins have missed strikes, double dies, or unique metal tones caused by wartime shortages, and those are the ones collectors hunt for. Now picture a man in his 60s. Maybe he once found one of these coins in his father's drawer or in an old cigar box. To him, it's not just copper. It's memory. It's family. It's a small piece of history that connects him to a time when Canada was young, proud, and standing tall on the world stage. That's the real magic of coin collecting. Every coin tells a human story. What makes this particular coin so valuable today? It's the combination of rarity, historical significance, and condition. Some 1944 Canadian 1-cent coins, especially those preserved in near-perfect mint state, have fetched incredible prices at auctions. Experts and enthusiasts look for those uncirculated examples that retain full detail. The crisp lines of the maple leaves, the sharp profile of King George VI, and the smooth, even color of untouched bronze. When collectors find such a gem, they're not just buying a coin. They're buying time itself. They're holding 1944 in their hands. They're touching a moment in history that can never be repeated. And here's where the story turns from humble to astonishing. A 1944 Canadian 1-cent coin, in the rarest of conditions with unique minting characteristics and unmatched preservation, has been valued at an incredible $3.5 million. That's right, a coin once worth just a single cent has now become a fortune. Think about that. A penny that once jingled in a pocket during wartime Canada is now worth more than most people's homes. That's not just a number. That's history rewarding patience, passion, and preservation. For those of you watching, especially my friends in their golden years, men who remember when a penny could buy a piece of candy or start conversation, this is your time to look again. Check those old jars, those forgotten drawers, those boxes of coins passed down through generations. Because you never know, your small, forgotten penny might just be the key to $1 million story. Every collector starts with curiosity, but it's love for history that keeps the journey alive. This coin 1944 Canadian 1-cent coin is more than metal. It's a memory stamped in bronze. A bridge between past and present. So, my friends, before you go, take one moment, like, share, and subscribe to Old Coin Z Collection, where we uncover stories like this every week. Because sometimes the smallest coins hold the greatest treasures, and maybe, just maybe, your next discovery could be worth $3.5 million. That's the story of the 1944 Canada 1-cent coin, a coin of war, of pride, and of priceless history.